Hello, today we are going to learn lesson 1.4, Write Equations and Inequalities. Your learning goal is I can translate verbal sentences into equations and inequalities. So remember when we talked about the difference between an expression and an equation is that an expression does not have an equal sign in it and you don't solve an expression, whereas an equation has two expressions that equal to each other with variables and coefficients and constants, and you solve for the variable. So if you don't see an equal sign and it's an expression, that means you're not solving. If you do see an equal sign in an equation, then you're probably going to be solving. So what's the difference between an equation and an inequality? Well, an inequality is just like an equation, except you use different symbols instead of equal sign. The four symbols that you're familiar with are less than, greater than, less than or equal to, and greater than or equal to. So today we're going to be writing equations and inequalities, as well as what's called a double inequality, where you have two inequalities. So first of all, sorry, trying to get my smartboard to work here. That first bullet point says, and blank is a mathematical blank formed by placing the equal sign between two expressions. So that is those two blanks, if you spend a minute thinking about it, are an equation is a mathematical sentence, where an expression is more like a phrase. A phrase is like a sentence, but it's not completed. And inequality is also like a mathematical sentence because it's completed. It's a completed thought formed by placing one of these four symbols between two expressions. And we're actually going to skip this last bullet point. It's not too important. Okay, so here I want you to copy down this table into your notes. So equal sign, what you'll read would be is equal to, because we're going to be doing a lot of word problems or sentences written out, and then you'll have to translate the sentence into an inequality or equation. So is equal to means that you would put an equal sign there. And then other words, and this is a matching. So what on the right column would also mean is equal to. And this would be the same as. In your notes, you can just write one next to the other instead of having these all flip-flopped. And then is less than, so the less than symbol, and that would be fewer than. Is greater than would mean more than. And then is less than or equal to. That would be at most, no more than. One thing to remember with these ones, when you have the is less than or equal to part with it, is that the associated words are flipped. So no more than. Whenever you see no more than, that means that it's actually less than or equal to, or at most less than or equal to, which means it can't be anything greater than that, so it has to be less than, but maybe equal to it. And then vice versa for is greater than or equal to. This would be at least, no less than. So it has to be greater than or equal to if it's no less than. So whenever you see the word no, that means that it's actually flipped. So instead of less, it'd be no less than. It's actually greater than. All right, let's practice. So the difference of twice the number k and 8 is 12. So remember, difference means subtracting, and we're doing twice the number k. Twice k would represent 2k, and 8 is the number that you're subtracting, so minus 8. And then is means equal to, so equals 12. The product of 6 and a number h So product means multiplying, and what are you multiplying? 6 and n. Oh, sorry, that's an n. So 6n, and then is at least. So remember, at least means actually the opposite, greater than or equal to. Greater than or equal to 24. So at least means it has to be greater than or equal to 24. And here we're not solving, we're just writing the expression. Okay, a number y is no less than. So no less than actually means greater than or equal to 5, and no more than 13. Wait a minute. We have two different symbols here. So if you have two different symbols, that means that you have a double, what's called a double inequality. So for double inequalities, we always write it from smallest to largest. So the smallest number is going to be 5, the largest number is going to be 13, and then y is in the middle, because y is no less than 5, but no more than 13. So y is in between 5 and 13. And then we put these symbols here. So no less than 5, no more than 13. And I know that no less than means greater than or equal to, but we actually are writing it that way. We're just writing it backwards. So y is greater than or equal to 5. It's okay if it's written backwards. So this is how you want to write double inequalities from least to greatest with the variable in the middle. Part D, it says a number q is at least 5 and less than 17. So that's another double inequality because it says at least 5 and less than 17. So q is going to go in the middle, 5 is going to go over here, 17 is going to go on the right, and it says at least 5. So at least means greater, or the equal sign is underneath it, and then less than, there's no equal sign underneath. Okay, and also for a double inequality, you always want to write the symbol opening towards the right, just like this. Okay, you will never write it like, for example, you're never going to write it like that, or you wouldn't write it like this. You wouldn't write, see how they're like opposite facing? They're always going to be pointing that way or opening right. So this would be wrong. All right, some more examples. So checking possible solutions. So check whether 3 is a solution of the equation or inequality. Okay, so this is pretty basic. You guys probably know how to do this already. You just plug in 3 for the variable and see if it's equal to the other side, or see if the equation is true. So we'd have 8 minus 2 times 3 is 6. Is that equal to 2? Yes. So this would be a solution. 3 would be a solution to the equation. For part B, 4 times 3 is 12. Minus 5, is that equal to 6? Well, no, because 12 minus 5 is 7. So this is not true. You can put a slash through the equal sign. Not a solution. I'm not writing no solution because that would imply that there's no solution to this equation, but there is. It's just not 3. And then 2 times z, 2 times 3 is 6 plus 5 is 11. Is 11 greater than 12? Nope. So not a solution. And then finally, 5 plus 3 times 3 is 9. Is that less than or equal to 20? Yes, because it's 14. 14 is less than or equal to 20. Okay, so you have some problems on your homework like that. All right. And then next example, using mental math to solve an equation. Okay, so there are a couple of problems on your homework like this. So the idea is to just think about it in your head. So here, what I would do is I would subtract 4 on both sides. So if I did that, 10 minus 4 would be 6. So x is 6. For this one, one thing that you can do to think about this is to get everything positive by actually adding the y over here and then subtracting 8 over here. And I know it's mental math, but I'm showing you what I'm doing in my head. So that means that the y becomes positive. 20 minus 8 is 12. So y is 12. Or else you would subtract 20 on both sides and then you'd get 2 negatives. You could still do it that way, but you might like to think about it this way to keep everything positive. Okay, for part C, we're just going to divide by 6. So 42 divided by 6 is 7. And then here, whenever you divide by a number to get it on the other side, you multiply. So times 5 on both sides. And that cancels with the denominator. So A is 45. Okay, so now for some word problems. Number 1, the last time you and 3 friends went to a mountain bike park, you had a coupon for $10 off and paid $17 for 4 tickets. So it says, what is the regular price of 4 tickets? Write an equation to solve. So let's let R represent the regular price for 4 tickets. So to get this equation, we're going to take the regular price and subtract the number for our coupon, which is 10. And we paid $17 for 4 of the tickets. So E equals 17. And then in order to solve, you would just add 10 to both sides. So the regular price of 4 tickets is actually $27. And then part B, if you pay the regular price this time and share equally, how much does each person pay? So whenever you're sharing something, you want to divide the price by the total number of people that you're sharing. So you would take 27 divided by 4, and that equals $6.75 per person. It's important to include units, so make sure that you include dollars per person. This is actually a unit rate because it's per 1 person. Number 2, a basketball player scored 351 points last year. If a player plays 18 games this year, will an average of 20 points per game be enough to beat last year's total? Okay, so we have to think about how to write an equation where P is the number of points earned per game. So the points per game. So if you wanted to get the total number of points scored, you would take the total number of games you played and multiply it by the points you earned per game. So 18 games times P, points per game. So it says, will an average of 20 points per game be enough to beat last year's total? So if you want to beat last year's total, what symbol would you include here between this and then last year's total, 351? Would it be greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to? Well, first of all, we're going to have to use one of the greater symbols because we want to score greater than 351. And we don't just want to score 351, we want to score greater than that. So we're not going to use the equals underneath. Okay, so this is the equation that we want to use. And in order to solve for P, we would divide both sides by 18. Or you can say, well, an average of 20 points per game. So what if we just plugged in 20 for P? So 18 times 20. What's 18 times 20? Well, think about what 18 times 2 is. 18 times 2 is 36, so 18 times 20 would be 360. And that is enough to score, so yes, or to beat last year's score. Okay, so make sure that you understand how, not just how to get the answer, but also how to write up an inequality or an equation using the variable that they tell you to use. All right, so that's all for this lesson. You'll get more practice in the Edulastic homework.